Hello and welcome to our first module for the CTEV 685, Application of Differentiated Instruction in Gifted Education. This is a pretty cool course, so I'm going to kind of go through it slowly so that you will have an opportunity to really consider your thoughts and your ideas regarding gifted education. So to get us started, just a couple of things. The purpose of this module is for you to be able to ascertain the key principles and suggestions for teaching gifted students. Lenora M. Cohen gives us some pretty great examples of what that means and how to do that in the settings that we currently occupy as general education teachers. This lecture also serves as an overview of those principles, so I'll be going over those in addition to providing you with a supplemental video and just some overall discussion about the content that you should have read in the article. And the article 1 is located in module 1, and it's clearly labeled for the assignments, so you should be able to find it. And last but not least, this lecture also provides an exploration of what gifted education is today and who are the students considered as gifted, because I think that overall, this is a different definition depending on the grade level and also the school district. So here you have the video by Joseph Minolzi. Sorry if I said the last name wrong, but what is giftedness? I think that's a really good question to ask, considering that we all come from different education backgrounds and also have a different thought when it comes to gifted education. One of the things I like that he states is that it is beyond IQ, which for me as an educator has always been considered to be associated with your IQ when a student was labeled as gifted, meaning that they had a high IQ and that they were able to go beyond the average intellectual capacity of a student in order to show, certain gifts and talents. So this was a kind of an eye-opening experience for me. The question that I have here, you'll stop and reflect on. What are your thoughts, your personal thoughts regarding giftedness or gifted students? Because I thought his video was really good at kind of letting us know that, what you think giftedness is, especially with the combination of things that impact a student's ability to show how gifted they are, need to be in place. So I really like the video for changing the way in which I think about giftedness. And I kind of highlight that in the next PowerPoint slide where he says it's three things, right? Above average ability, creativity, and task commitment, which are combined together to enable certain people at certain times within certain circumstances to show a gifted ability or giftedness in a certain content. So it was pretty cool how he broke it down, because it's not just their ability to be smart in something. It's a combination of things happening simultaneously at the same time, which told me that, like the picture says in the back, that giftedness can be seen in every student in any class. It doesn't mean that it is particular to one student or one particular subject area. And I also like the fact that he says that not every student is gifted. So he's not giving the impression that giftedness is something that everyone has, but instead that it's a result of things happening simultaneously at the same time, and the gifts that the students have been brought to light in those circumstances. So Lenora Cohen, she takes it a step further by looking at the challenges of implementing gifted education, and then she centers in some principles that I think are really useful in today's classroom. So she starts us off with the conversation by saying, teacher preparation issues, diverse students, populations, and lack of diversity among teachers are some of the problems facing provision of appropriate support to our gifted students. So in other words, there are a lot of conflicting thoughts, ideas, conditions within the classroom setting that make it kind of hard for teachers to teach gifted students, especially if their perspective doesn't follow the ones that the school does in regards to identifying gifted students. So to start us off with the conversation about the principles, I wanted to start off with number 1. Focus on unique patterns of strengths. She says here it's for us to extend our notions of giftedness to include children from every racial and ethnic group, children of poverty, and those with disabilities. The spectrum of giftedness must be expanded to include the peacemaker, the child with extraordinary awareness of the environment, the gentle child, the comic, and so many other capacities needed by our complex and fragile planet. Meaning that giftedness is not one particular student or one particular type of student, that giftedness can be seen and also brought out of a variety of students, which I think is important to consider. Principle 2 says group by interests or abilities at least part of the time. I've heard of situations where teachers who are assigned gifted students often make them the leader of the group or the student that is responsible for making sure everyone's doing what they need to do. The problem with that is that the student is not able to develop their interests or their skills or even develop healthy social norms or emotional growth. So keeping this in mind, I think is critical, and Cohen kind of speaks about that when she says, think about Big Bang teaching. Think in a way of how do you design curriculum with exciting, culminating activities wherein all students have important roles to play based on their interests, and the products are shared with interested others. So it's not just about the student using the student's abilities to be leaders, but actually helping them develop their skills. For the third principle, which says flexible pacing, move as far and fast and basic skills as possible, I think this was important because sometimes in general education classrooms, it's hard for us to pace for students who are moving ahead, and sometimes we kind of tell them, hey, okay, don't work on this. Well, and this principle, she stresses the importance of enabling the curriculum to work for the student and not necessarily slowing them down. For principle 4, sorry, screen is kind of moving faster than I am. Enrich individual interests. Provide opportunities for students to explore in-depth areas of great interest and to purposefully investigate real problems. So I thought this one was pretty neat because sometimes students have to have a really big purpose in what they're doing, and this might be where they're gifted. So enabling them to see kind of like a purpose. I know one time I had a project where students got to choose something they wanted to change about their community. For students who were gifted in this area, one of my students created a homeless kind of app thing where he was able to brainstorm and envision ways that he can help the homeless around our school. In his community, which I thought was brilliant. But providing those kind of opportunities, you never know, can help a student who already has giftedness explore and expand their skills more. So number 5 continues offer mediation, counseling, mentoring, and facilitation from caring adults to optimize potential and develop ethical citizens. This one was different for me. I never heard of this before, but I can see the purpose of it where it's a team effort. Oftentimes where students are gifted, they need additional support. So finding ways to partner with the counselors or even the support staff within your school could be really critical in helping a gifted student maximize their potential in their gifted area. And then finally, provide the tools for lifelong learning. I thought this was critical because sometimes we think once a student has reached a certain level of intelligence that's it. And that they know everything, but oftentimes they're missing the steps for the process. So here, providing tools such as research skills for accessing information, higher order thinking skills for processing information, not just the fact that they can do it, but the process by which it takes to complete the task. Creativity skills for modifying, adapting, and improving. Even transforming information into communication skills for sharing information and ideas. There's so many different areas that gifted students need development in, and these skills or these tools will be critical for them to become lifelong learners. Finally, I ask you to consider, how does your school or how does my school environment support gifted students? Because I think it's not a question that's often considered if there's not a high population of students that have been labeled as gifted. Maybe in your school environment, this is something new, or the labeling of gifted students is far and few. But how you support the students who have been labeled as gifted and those who are showing giftedness is critical to their actual overall success. So finally, we end with these key points here. Giftedness is not associated with only an IQ score. Remember that a gifted student in your classroom can be one that doesn't score as high as other students or struggles emotionally. Supportive students within general education classrooms who have been identified as gifted requires consideration for a variety of factors influencing their daily learning experience, not just one. It doesn't mean that they have to be the leader of the classroom or that they're the most emotionally stable. It could mean that they actually need support in other areas as far as developing the processes to acquire certain knowledge. And finally, building an environment conducive to gifted students developing their individual talents requires assistance from both teachers, counselors, and